Hello everyone, Marco255 here and welcome back to another video. A Hat in Time is one of my favourite games of all time, with endlessly fun gameplay, a fantastic OST, and incredibly unique and fun characters to boot. I always wanted to do a video on it, so I made one a year ago, and like others from back then, it didn't age well and it's one of my most viewed videos for some reason. I have zero idea as to why it blew up, but here we are, over a year and a half later, remastering that video with all the tricks I've learned over that time. Same rules as last time, only that I'm excluding the first time piece in NYAKUZA Metro because I can't be bothered, and it wasn't on the tier list I was following, so yeah. Also, I'm not counting the two separate timepieces from the finale of Chapter 6, I'm just only including that as one. Anyways, if you like this video, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and click the notifications bell so you know when I'll upload next. I got a lot of cool stuff planned for the future of the channel, and I want you to see what it is. With that being said, let's re-rank all the timepieces in A Hat in Time. 54. Curly Tail Trail Time Rift. Yeah, this one still sucks. Those invisible cat enemies suck so much, and they're the main focus of the time rift, so yeah, focusing on the actual worst thing about this game is not a good idea. Some other chapters have levels where they use these enemies, but they're not used nearly as much as here, so they don't truly matter in them. Overall, this is the only chapter in the game which is straight up not fun to play. 53. Chapter 1. Cheating the Race. I don't really understand the point of this act, honestly. It feels aggressively shoehorned into this chapter. It feels built up throughout the whole game due to technically needing the time stop hat, which takes forever to get. But you can still beat it without it if you're fast enough. Also, once you get the time stop hat, it's just super underwhelming. This isn't bad, it's just really out of place and forced, especially compared to the rest of the game. 52. Sua's Time Rift. Whilst the rest of this game's time rifts aren't bad per se, they do kind of blend in with each other with only a few exceptions. This one has fairly generic platforming, but it's one of the first in the game, so I guess it makes sense. Still good, but quite forgettable. 51. Bizarre Time Rift. This is in the exact same boat as the last one, just with slightly more interesting gameplay like the cookie platforms and the sleeping flying fox guys. 50. Chapter 3. Mail Delivery Service. A lot of the rest of these ones at the bottom are simply just forgettable compared to everything else. This is exactly that. Chapter 3 is full of creative things, but this is just kind of just delivering mail. But hey, seeing Snatcher at any time of the millennia is always a hoot and a half. 49. Pipe Time Rift. These red platforms that fall are quite fun and remind me of Super Mario 3D Land for some reason. And using the grappling hook is fun in any scenario, so yeah, better than the last few at least. 48. The Lab Time Rift. These cool bird things are annoying, but not nearly as annoying as the invisible cats, because you can easily get rid of them by just jumping around them and homing attacking them, so yeah, surprisingly fun. 47. Village Time Rift. The Dweller Mask is by far the best hat in the game in terms of how fun it is to use when platforming, so that instantly makes this time rift better than the previous ones. Although, yet again, it's still quite forgettable like all the others mentioned already. 46. Chapter 1. Welcome to Mafia Town. What an insanely great way to start this game and get you to understand what it's all about. Getting fuel for your ship whilst vibing with some insanely creative concepts. Mustache Girl is also introduced here, who is one of my favourite antagonists in video game history. I'll talk more about her later. 45. Chapter 1. Barrel Battle. This is a great way to lead on from the introduction. You easily understand the threat of the Mafia and the boss fight is pretty solid. 44. The Owl Express Time Rift. This is a very satisfying time rift to play, and that alone makes it this high. It just flows insanely well and leads on to the other time rift in this chapter, which is much higher, and I'll talk about that when we get there. 43. Twilight Bell Time Rift. I really like the concept of using the big goat guys as actual obstacles instead of just being there like in the actual chapter. Plus more Forest Dweller Mask use is always nice. 42. Chapter 1. The Golden Vault. Whilst this one is in a similar vein to Cheating the Race, as it does feel kinda pointless to the whole thing, it is much better because it lets you fully explore Mafia Town and find all of its secrets, which is super fun to do for obvious reasons. 41. Chapter 4. The Birdhouse. This is the most forgettable part of Chapter 4 in my opinion, which is one of the more forgettable chapters in the game in general to me anyway, so yeah. Nothing really stands out about this mission to me as opposed to the others, but it's still fun to play through nonetheless. 40. Chapter 7. Yellow Overpass Manhole. Chapter 7 isn't the kind of chapter that's good to think about in terms of the individual missions, and is much better when thinking about it as one massive chapter. However, that's not what we're doing here, so yeah. This timepiece simply has the least interesting design of the bunch to me. 39. The Gallery Time Rift. This one honestly just flows super well, with the brewing hat always being fun to use during platforming and the entire time rift just being very satisfying to play. 38. Chapter 7, Green Clean Manhole. There's not really anything I can think of saying about this one honestly, it's kinda just more NYAKUZA mechanics. Still fun, but easily blends in with the rest. 37. Mafia of Cooks Time Rift. These time rifts will generally be higher than the blue time rifts because the mechanics used are fun and the backstory for each character you get at the end is really fun to watch. This is the most basic one and has the least interesting backstory for the character it is showing the backstory of, so this is the weakest one to me. 36. Chapter 7, Pink Paw Station. Yet again, this is just more great Yakuza action. However, it is slightly more memorable due to using the Forest Dweller mask at various points. It doesn't use it too well, but I'll take what I can get. 35. Chapter 7, Bluefin Tunnel. This one is more memorable because it uses the collect pieces of the timepiece mechanic from Chapter 6. Plus there's a single invisible cat. It's pretty fun. 34. Chapter 3, Toilet of Doom. This one is mainly this high because we're fighting a toilet. There doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason as to why we're fighting a toilet aside from the fact that it apparently has our soul. The boss fight is pretty mid though, and essentially is just a beta version of the Snatcher fight later on, which is a shame due to the concept being gold. 33. The Moon Time Rift. This time rift uses a mechanic that works perfectly for time rifts and uses it so damn well. It's super fun to play and flows probably the best out of all the time rifts. This is one of the few time rifts that are quite memorable compared to the rest. 32. Alpine Skyline Time Rift. This time rift has sections dedicated to each part of the chapter, and it works really well. It's really fun to play, except that one platform with the invisible cats, and the lore is surprisingly interesting compared to the chapter it's about. 31. Chapter 4, The Lava Cake. Whilst this one is a really fun one to explore and all, there's nothing about it that stands out. It's also a weird out-of-place inclusion in this chapter, considering the rest doesn't have any lava things. It's still fun, don't get me wrong, just nothing super interesting. 30. Chapter 7, Yellow Overpass Station. This one's kinda memorable due to it being the first actual timepiece of this chapter, but it also just has fun level design with the cat trains and all. Solid stuff. 29. Chapter 3, The SUBCON Well. This chapter introduces the insanely fun to use grappling hook, and it introduces it super well. There is better level design later on in the game that uses the grappling hook, but this still stands out on its own. 28. Chapter 7, Pink Paw Manhole. This is by far the best manhole in the chapter due to using these blue ponds as a cool mechanic, as opposed to the other manholes which are just more of the same essentially. One of the best individual timepieces in this chapter. 27. Chapter 2, The Big Parade. DJ Grooves' acts are much less enjoyable than the conductors to me, but still, it's Chapter 2, so this is still a super fun time, with some intense parts and a surprising level of difficulty to it. Also, the parade mechanic is used in that banger time rift mentioned earlier. 26. Balcony Time Rift. Finally, this is the last blue time rift in the game I need to talk about. This is by far the longest time rift in the game, and uses concepts never used before. I honestly wish that sliding around was used much more in the game in some way, but I guess that's what mods are for. Anyways, great combinations of concepts lead to a really fun and memorable time. 25. Chapter 7, Green Clean Station. This one doesn't really stand out in any way compared to the other parts of the metro, but it is just the most fun to explore nonetheless. Not a lot to say, but that could be said about any part of this chapter, except a few we'll get into later. 24. Chapter 1, Heating Up Mafia Town. This works far better as an ending to the chapter than the Golden Vault, honestly. It feels a lot like this chapter is very out of order from Down with the Mafia. Anyways, this is just some great platforming action to avoid in lava and help in the Mafia. 23. Chapter 3, Contractual Obligations. What an absolutely perfect way to introduce the best character in the game. Snatcher. Snatcher's presence in anything about this game immediately makes it 10 times better. This also introduces the basic mechanics of the forest super well, but Snatcher makes this endlessly fun. 22. Chapter 6. Ship Shape. This is a great way to test how well you've gotten to know the ship's layout. Plus it's just really fun to go around with like 8 things on your plate and have like a massive pile of junk you gotta give to everyone. 21. Sleepy SUBCON Time Rift. This one has a great level design, but more importantly, shows a fascinating as all hell backstory about Queen Vanessa and Snatcher. The story to this one is one of, if not the best of the bunch, plus the level design makes it this high. 20. Chapter 2. Picture Perfect. This is such a fun time, man. It's such a great satisfying mission to just go around the public and become the max diva the world needs right now. Also, the DJ tokens are such fun to experience due to his immaculate voice acting. Seriously, the voice acting for this game is absolutely incredible. You can tell everyone in the team had a blast with this game. 19. Chapter 6. Bon Voyage. I much prefer the chill experience of casually going about the ship and getting those timepiece shards as opposed to the intense anxiety-inducing Act 2. Also, I can finally mention how goddamn adorable the seals are. They're just too precious.
I hurt myself. Will you take me to the captain, please?
18. Tour Time Rift. This is a great look back on all the main game's chapters. Plus, the backstory on Mustache Girl is quite touching as she was clearly just living a good life before the Mafia arrived. A great final timepiece for a great game. 17. Chapter 2. Dead Bird Studio. This is such a fantastic introduction to a chapter, perfectly setting up the rivalry between the conductor and DJ grooves whilst also being a really fun stealth mission, blending the designs of both characters' movies fantastically. Also, there's a collection of cool things here from double sunglasses to making your bird passport, what's not to adore. 16. Chapter 2. Train Rush. What an exhilaratingly fun time, with the music adding to the intensity of the moment perfectly, the platforming being super fun and being great to replay whilst trying to get a better time. Also, the Electro Swing remix of the song in this act is amazing, it's playing in the background right now. 15. Dead Bird Studio Time Rift. This is such a fun time rift to explore, mainly because of all the general theming of the chapter being probably my favourite out of them all, but also just because it's fun. The lore at the end is also quite interesting too, from great friends to mortal enemies. 14. Chapter 6. Rock the Boat. The Titanic references are never gonna stop being such a joy to sit through. Plus the concept of going around a shipwrecked ship and saving everyone you can is so cool, with the execution living up to the concept perfectly. A little disappointing that there's no unique music for when the ship has crashed until you save the captain though. 13. Deep Sea Time Rift. This is a surprisingly difficult time rift, with the level design being quite a bit more difficult than the rest of the game, excluding Death Wishes, and that extra level of difficulty makes it this high honestly. The lore behind the captain is also kinda sad too. 12. Chapter 4. The Windmill. God, this song is mesmerizing. It kind of gives me vibes of the Song of Storms from Ocarina of Time, with a similar main part and a similar feel. The platforming is great and kind of adds to that endlessly enjoyable feel the song has, with the climb up the place being really fun whilst also being fairly long. 11. Roombi Factory Time Rift. This is easily the best time rift in the game because it tells a deeply fascinating story through the level design, with the manufacturing of the Roombies to when they get greenlit to showing the monopoly the company behind them has over everything. The lore behind the specific Roombi hat kit has is also super fun and wholesome. All of this perfectly fits in the world of NYAKUZA Metro and is just so much fun. 10. Chapter 1. Down with the Mafia. What a fantastic way to end the intro to the game. Getting rid of the main threat whilst also bringing a new, far bigger one who we thought would help us is so cool. Speaking of that new villain, I feel like Mustache Girl has some surprising complexity with her character and that makes her do what she does. Because it's clearly wrong, but also Hackett is sort of in the wrong for not even trying to use the power of the timepieces for good. I could go into more detail at a later date if I truly feel like I can talk about it, so let's move on. 9. Chapter 4. The Twilight Bell. This has by far the most fun design out of all of the separate parts of Alpine Skyline, making full use of the capabilities of the Forest Dweller mask and feeling so good to do right. Nothing truly interesting happens here, it's just really fun. 8. Chapter 1, She Came From Outer Space. This chapter is such a joy to revisit over and over again, with one of the funniest moments in the whole game. That moment alone makes this one of the best, and the rest just adds on to that greatness. 7. Chapter 4, The Illness Has Spread. This is such a massive tonal shift from the rest of the relatively chill chapter, it's kind of insane. The music is so damn good and makes you really want to save these massive guys from the illness you kind of sort of maybe have started. Whoops. The platforming is so much fun. God, it's the true highlight of this chapter. 6. Chapter 7, Rush Hour. The pure intensity and excitement you feel once this chapter starts and that beautifully animated cutscene plays and you start is unrivaled in this game. Going as fast as you can to avoid all the obstacles in your way is so much fun, and that payoff at the end is hilarious, making for an absolute banger of an ending. Also, the music is fantastic too. 5. Chapter 2, Award Ceremony. That bait and switch at the beginning is both jarring and really effective. Going through the inner workings of Deadbird Studio and finding out the truth behind everything is such a joy. Also, the boss fight is amazing too, blending all the best things from each bird's movies respectively. Yet again, a fantastic way to end this masterpiece of a chapter. 4. Chapter 3, Queen Vanessa's Manor. You've seen the gameplay of this game and how lighthearted and fun it is, right? Well, what if I told you there was an act which is a literal horror game where you must hide from a massive terrifying beast shrouded in darkness? If you're about to say you don't believe it, you're literally seeing it unfold in front of your eyes, so yeah. This mood whiplash makes perfect sense as well due to this taking place in what is by far the darkest chapter in the game. I'll never forget how terrified I was on my first playthrough, it is so damn good. 3. Chapter 3, Your Contract Has Expired. What if I told you this was a fantastic way to end this chapter? Well, that's exactly what I'm doing. Whilst this doesn't have any cool story stuff, per se, it is just such a joy to fight one of the best characters in anything ever, and colour him blue with his own attack.
Did you just color me blue with my own attack?
Also, holy shit, the song is good. And the fight itself is great too. This just has it all. 2. Chapter 5, The Finale. If you haven't played or seen the game, you may have been wondering where Chapter 5 has been this whole time. Well, it's one act, and it's one of the best parts of any game I've ever played. Seeing everyone line up to get chosen whether they're a good or bad guy is super dramatic. The music is also dramatic. The platforming before the boss is great, and, of course, the final boss against Mustache Girl.
You are the bad guy, and I'll show you how this justice system deals with bad guys.
This is the best boss fight in the game, with a collection of great mechanics, attacks, and emotional weight, as everyone literally dies for you to save the world. Literally everything about this is absolutely incredible, and ends the game more than perfectly. What could possibly be better than the ending? Well... 1. Chapter 2, Murder on the Owl Express. Everything about this is just too good. From the aesthetic being perfect, to the crows asking for various information from you being hilarious out of context in certain circumstances, to the humor in general being on point, to the platforming being super fun, to choosing who committed the murder being hilarious too. Literally nothing is wrong with this, and everything is fantastic at minimum. As you may be able to tell, my favorite things about this game are the absolutely ridiculous parts of it. From She Came From Outer Space, to Queen Vanessa's Manor, to this. I can't think of much else to say, just the aesthetic and everything else about this mission is just perfect for me. Few acts give you a reason to replay them, but this one does with all the possible suspects you can choose. All the characters are such a joy to watch them interact with each other, from the conductor to the owls to the crows. Also, a group of crows is a murder of crows, and crows are solving a murder. This game is literally perfect. All of these reasons and more is why Murder on the Owl Express still stands as my favorite timepiece to collect from A Hat in Time. Oh boy, am I glad to have chosen to do this video. A Hat in Time is one of my favorite games of all time for a reason. It appeals to my taste in video games far too perfectly, as I am a sucker for classic N64 style 3D platformers like Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, etc., and this game is just that. I am so unbelievably excited to see what Gears for Breakfast has in store for future projects. As you know, I'll be playing anything with their name on it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, as I truly love this game and want to shed more light onto it so you guys can check it out yourself. It's on every modern console, so you have no reason but to do so. Anyways guys, that just about does it for today's video everybody. I really hope you all enjoyed it. And if you like my channel, then why not subscribe, click the like button, check out these videos, share with friends and family, check out my Discord server, and click the bell to be notified when any new videos come out. Anyways guys, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I gotta work on Shantae now.